National Forum and Exhibition. We are discussing today a very interesting topic because many people fail to understand the actual situation. There are many stereotypes related to Chernobyl and the liquidators and the victims, and it's all far-fetched. And we are trying to see what is happening behind the curtains, in the wings, and also for the people who are not very well versed in this. We discuss such things for the general public, and thanks to my predecessors here, or our previous guests, we have Olena Pantsyuk from Pripyat. She'll discuss the social consequences for the victims and IDPs of Pripyat. She is a former dweller of Pripyat. It's a private story she would like to share, and I'm turning it over to her now. Good afternoon. I would like to thank Valeria and Svetlana, first of all, because the topic that they're raising on the 5th day of this forum is so unrewarding: social protection, social rights. Nobody wants to touch it with a barge pole. So I'm very grateful to you for the opportunity to share the experience and the real state of affairs, and for sponsoring this forum, for the speakers that we've listened to for 5 days, and they were sharing these observations on the situation 35 days, years, sorry, after the day, the 26th of April, 1986. So this is all post-Chernobyl. Now, what I would like to tell you, 35 years have passed indeed, and I'm here with this album. You know that in Pripyat at our public presentations, I always use this rarity. This is a remembrance of my life, my classmates back in Pripyat when I was 13, when we had this evacuation from Pripyat. And the principal idea that I would like to get across to the international community and the Ukrainian general public, like 35 years ago, don't you forget that we are people from Pripyat, dwellers of the town of Pripyat. At the point of explosion, were in the epicenter of that explosion. The experts would say that that was not exactly the epicenter, 2 kilometers away, but we were the closest, human beings the closest to the place where the fourth reactor exploded. They say that we are no different from the general victim population, the IDPs. This is wrong. From the very beginning, it was wrong. There is this area of the epicenter from the explosion. On one of the days, somebody mentioned that it was not like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but like 500 bombs. And we are children of Pripyat. We're 17,000 at the point of explosion. We were in the epicenter. And before it all started, we had civilian defense lessons, and we would put on the gas mask within 30 seconds. That was the norm. But my dad was the only person to tell me that you stay at home. Something happened to the NPP. Nobody would tell us to use medical masks or gas masks or any kind of respirators. We were breathing it all in. The radioactive Anna Korolevska now will speak. There's a tag that they had 75 times higher than the norm. That was the radiation background, the background radiation. And so people from Pripyat back 35 years ago could not defend their right to be called Pripyat people, not Chernobyl people, because Chernobyl, you know, was far away, relatively far away from the NPP, but Pripyat was at NPP. that was built for our people, our parents, our folk who worked for the NPPs, built it and operated it, manned it, and we were 13 years old back then. We evacuated and went to some summer camps. We could not come back home. We would say that we're not Chernobyl people. We were Pripyat people. That's the legal aspect. Nobody recognized that we were dwellers of Pripyat, the town of Pripyat. I have this ID for all of us. We all have it. It does not say that I was evacuated from Pripyat. I suffered as a result of Chernobyl accident. That's what it says. And I'm telling you in much detail because this is the social component, the social PEP. We were not recognized as the most suffering population. That is going for years. There's the certificate that says that I was at such and such address and was evacuated from it. But what are the rights and the social safeguards can be provided by such certificates from people like me, like myself, and many other people from Pripyat who have no disability category, the first category. They're not liquidators because we're children. We were 13 at that point. And the document for a payment 228 hryvnias per month. That's the compensation. And food for better nutrition. And I am not sure whether the world want to know this truth. People from the international mass media, the journalists come to me and they want me to talk about such remembrances. Yeah, it's traumatic even now, 35 years later. But I agree with one condition, to discuss not just the events of the past, but developments of the present for Pripyat people in the time of pandemic. How can we buy any kind of medicine using the 228 hryvnias of vitamins? So Chernobyl is not far away. It's the time distance of 35 years. 3 times it would remind us of itself. Evacuation. When my dad told me that we were facing evacuation, it was a shock. What kind of evacuation? No war. No. But remember when the pandemic started with this coronavirus, COVID-19, some people from repatriating from China would not be accepted by the local population at Sanjari because they were evacuated. There's some kind of condition which was dangerous for the public. I have this picture at the point of evacuation. We're teenagers, happy lives we led. Everyone would say that in Pripyat we had a very happy, progressive town. We were very positive in our attitude. We had the positive outlook. That's what we were like. And now we all of a sudden had those darkened, long faces, and with the terrible word evacuation. The same with our people evacuated from China 35 years later, after the Chernobyl accident. Still, we had that same notion. And the government, the state, the public, when they feel indifferent, history would repeatedly remind us to teach us the lesson, finally. And we are trying with our public initiative. It's a matter of principle for me not to represent any NGOs. I do not would like to say that I'm advertising some kind of group of people or a party for that matter. I represent the community of Pripyat, those people who are still fighting for at least some minimum of a pension, because 35 years later we have that allowance, early retirement, We have 5 years prior the retirement age. So people who stayed for 2 days and exposed to radiation with high dosage exposure, 36 hours, and they retire. How can this be taken into account just because they have this early retirement 5 years earlier? But when they retire and have 23 or 2,500, it's like my sister, she was a liquidator, 18 years old back then. She retired earlier, but with 2,500 hryvnias, it's very difficult to live a month even in the country, in the rural areas of Ukraine, and we have to live on. We are not going around with a cap in our hands, but they say that they learned the lesson of Chernobyl, that we have overcome the after effects, perhaps environmental to a larger degree. More protection we have now at that site. We can visit Pripyat now, but that is not a bad facility so much, because we tend to forget about the people who built it, who populated that ghost town, and people that need a better environment. I talked to Tatiana Lukina. She was pregnant, she was evacuated from Pripyat, and she was affected by many problems with her relatives, immediate family, having bad health, and herself. So with that roll call, she updates the register of the survivors, because I haven't seen this register, the governmental one, I say. And they talk about it, but they say that they have 49,500, but how many survivors we have, nobody knows. According to her information, it's about 50%. For the children, 17,000 back in 1986. 1/4 survived. I don't think that this is a big thing for the budget to raise this from 200 at least to some subsistence level. Well, this is not to save anyone anymore. 200 or 2,000, it's not, it's just a set of vitamins, and there's no better nutrition opportunity. But we should not be ashamed. We have to tell people that yes, they saved the world. Yes, you can see the yellow pages. I lived through them. My dad started working at the Chernobyl NPP in 1976. Yes, we saw the sand and the lead loads dropped from the helicopters. My dad was loading the sacks with his bare hands. Those people are gone, long since gone, but they were the saviors, the rescuers. They saved the world, and the state, the government should do something for that category of people, at least something, not to be exposed to that international shame and have shame on them. I would like to greet all the activists and the journalists. They are not afraid. Our people are not afraid of anything in that realm, but this is not a hot topic. This is not a hype. And in our remembrances, they can squeeze emotions and the ratings out of it, but the social aspect they do not want to touch with a barge or pole.
Була експертка, яка проводила дослідження, скільки разів згадувалась Чорнобильська катастрофа і наскільки резонансно це все пройшло от в 35-ті роковини. Згадують, так, згадують, але ніхто не згадує прип'ятчан з їх жалюгідними льготами, пільгами. Хоча це і не льготи, і не пільги, це просто компенсація за задану шкоду нашому здоров'ю. Тому що ми практично були мирним населенням, яке постраждало внаслідок ядерного вибуху. Так, ми не ліквідатори, але ми населення, яке постраждало, ну, нашої вини в цьому немає. Якщо зараз ліквідатори активно добиваються статусу учасників війни, то ми, виходить, діти війни, чи як? Але це замовчується, забувається, і нас змішують з іншими соціальними групами переміщених, переселених. Хоча так, факт є фактом, що від Чорнобильської катастрофи постраждав весь світ, і навіть мій колега, журналіст із Туреччини, розповідав, що коли стався вибух, то в тій місцевості, де він жив, всі чайні плантації були знищені, а ті люди, які пили чай потім з цих плантацій, вони захворіли на онкологічні захворювання. Так це в Турції. Ну і по Швеції, по Швейцарії багато таких от фактів. А чомусь прип'ятчани, які жили менше, ніж в 2 кілометрах від вибуху, ну якось вони з історією зійшли на нівець. Тому що важко, тому що немає підтримки, тому що з віком люди набувають нових проблем із здоров'ям, і щоб там не говорили про подолання психологічних і фізіологічних наслідків якихось впливу від радіації, але, на жаль, вона не через рік, не через 2, не через 3, це знають японські вчені і всі вчені, які досліджують це питання. Ця радіація, вона не дається в знаки одразу, як ми всі, от діти Прип'яті, навіть ми ж були тоді в такому підлітковому віці, вже такі перше кохання, перше почуття, і ну от це, може і жорстоко звучить, але тоді був такий міф і стереотип, що ми через 3 роки всі помремо. І ми говорили тим хлопцям, які в нас закохувались, ви в нас не закохуєтесь, ми все одно через 3 роки помремо. Ну ми, слава Богу, 35 років уже живемо. Але, на жаль, радіація і ті дозові навантаження, які отримали прип'ятчани, вони даються і зараз в знаки, і з віком появляються хвороби з вегетосудинною, серцево-судинні захворювання, ендокринні і неврологічні, і багато інших. І це теж до цього, може, були готові вчені, може, були готові медики, науковці, а ми, які отримуємо 228 гривень і путівку раз в 3 роки в санаторій, якщо ти її виб'єш, якщо у тебе є на це сили, енергія, якщо ти можеш прийти в відділ соціального захисту і сказати, да скільки ж можна, ми 3 роки чекаємо, може дайте, ви ж там звітуєте, як ми шикарно оздоровлюємося в санаторіях, в які ніхто не хоче їздити. І це вся правда, та, яку світ, напевно, не хоче чути. Але історія нагадує, і нагадує тими хлопцями і дівчатами, переселенцями із тимчасово окупованих територій, які нам розповідають, що як нам важко адаптуватися соціально на новому місці, на нових роботах, на яких ще й не так просто влаштуватися, знайти нове житло. І я їм говорю, я вас прекрасно розумію, ми це все переживали 35 років тому.
And find new housing. I understand this, but to have this supported, there was this UNICEF competition where we had to support temporarily moved individuals, those who were temporarily relocated. Imagine ending up in a completely new environment with new classmates, and they weren't exactly glad to see us. But when we were in one of children's summer camps, They would boo us. They would compare us with leprosy, and we survived. And we are trying to keep together and try to overcome this. I think
Так, дякую за цю промову і виступ. Дуже і зворушливі історії. Також
thank you for your opinion and your story. I remember being in the summer camp too. And I remember saying that 1 month later, Chernobyl children will come, and they will come. I'm not sure what it meant, but I remember the way they treated them. We also did this project called Lessons of Chernobyl, and after presenting these lessons, and they had around 5,500 teachers registered to get the materials. We also got feedback from them, and they said that teachers from the eastern part of Ukraine had children from Kramatorsk, for instance. They studied these materials and they would draw parallels. They found a lot of common things between their situation, the people who were relocated from eastern parts of Ukraine affected by the war, and the people who were relocated from Pripyat because of the accident. And another example is COVID-19 and anti-terrorist operation in the east of Ukraine, because now we have a larger number of migrants, because people are relocated because of war, and when they arrive to a different location, people are not met, people are not welcome, because it's a different world, different culture, different traditions, and they have very similar problems. So they were not sure whether they will get assistance and whether society will actually perceive them well. So these situations are very similar, and we can certainly decide what was right and what was wrong and what lessons we can learn from this. I thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the work you do.